What's going on, everybody? Feder here from 3D Print SOS. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we are going to be focusing on this. This is the BambuLab A1 Mini combo. The A1 Mini being this printer and the combo being the printer and this AMS unit. I know it looks really funky. I'll go over it in this video, but I'm gonna pause right here on all that and just say that I'm calling it. This is the best 3D printer in 2024. Now, before you get all emotional and start getting angry at me on the comments, I just did a video going over reviewing and testing 5 of the best machines that I have here in the studio that I've been testing. And they are the best machines. Some of them are up to $1,500 machines. Some of them are almost industrial grade machines. Some of them are all of them are fully automated. They're amazing and they are the best 3D printers. But those machines aren't necessarily the best bang for your buck or are friendly towards beginners. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But when you're talking about just getting the most features, the best quality that you can get for the money, I don't think there's anything coming anywhere near this. The last time I remember something like this was when I first started 3D printing, or about 3 years ago when I first started this channel rather. I started the channel because I found this machine called the BambuLab A1, which was doing the same thing the Enders were doing at the time, but it was doing it under $200 and it had more features. This is doing the same thing. It has everything. It has a camera, it has lights, it has a touchscreen, it has all of this stuff. It prints amazing. It's super fast. It's as fast as the $1,500 machines, but it does it for under $200, which means the bang for the buck category, this just completely dominates it. It just destroys everything else in the category. There's plenty of machines in this price range, but they're not quite like this. This machine, I don't want to say is maintenance free because you do have to do some things and there's wearables on this, but in my case, this has been completely maintenance and trouble free. It's really amazing. And then when you get to know it a little better, or right away, depending on your budget, you can also upgrade it with this. This is the AMS Lite unit. And I'll talk about why it's up here. But what this is you can put on 4 different filament spools, 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and it turns this really fast, reliable machine into a really fast, reliable machine that can print 4 colors, which is just unbelievable. You can print little things like this and many, many other things. I don't even need to go over that. You probably already know them. The point of this video is to give you guys the cons, the pros of this machine, just like I do with the rest of the machines. I'm going to show you some prints, mostly because I just compared these machines, like I said, and I did the same exact prints with the same spools on this, so I think it'll be pretty relevant. So once you can get over those cons, or if you can get over those cons, you'll obviously get over the pros. So that's what I want to do. But first, before we get into that, let me talk a little bit about what you're seeing here and why this machine's so funky and quirky in the first place. So the A1 Mini with the combo specifically has this AMS Lite unit that sits on the side, behind it, or obviously on the other side. So on the sides or behind it. And in my personal example or case, there's very little room in the studio where I can fit that quirky contraption. And I'll go over this in the cons and pros and so on. I just want to explain what you're seeing here. So I have this 3D printable modification. This was one of the first prints, actually the first print that I did on this machine, where it takes it off to the side and puts it on top. And for the past 6, 7, or 8 months, however long I've had this machine, I think I've had comments every time I posted, oh, you shouldn't put this much weight up here. You've ruined the machine. It's not going to print the same. Everything that you're going to see that I've printed in this machine and everything that I've ever printed on this machine, which has been just hours and hundreds of hours, has been printing with this on top. That's just the myth. I don't think people know what they're actually talking about. And also, even if they do, this machine can compensate for those vibrations and the weight being up there because it does a bunch of tests before it starts printing that calibrate itself and make it print with these things in this configuration. So that's why you're seeing this funky setup and why you might have searched this machine and it looked like something else was sitting next to it. This is just a printable modification that you can do completely for free. It fits on the build plate. All you need is just some filament. amazing. The next thing that you see here is this box that's attached to the side here, and this is a two-part thing. Let's talk about the first one. The first thing you see is this drawer system on the front, and what it does is it takes all the tools that you get with the machine and some maintenance pieces, and it just puts it in this nice little drawer. You can do it, you can print it right on this machine. It could be your first multi-material print, and it kind of teaches you how to use the machine. And having it all right here just makes it really user-friendly, and user experience is kind of the name of the game for this machine. Then we have another little drawer where you can put whatever you want, and different hot ends with different nozzles on it, or just spares you can put right in there. Everything's labeled and nice. And then of course we have all of the filament that is provided by BambuLab, and you can find which color you like and order it from BambuLab directly. So that's the front of this. And then we also have room for a scraper knife to help you get things off of the build plate, as well as this magnetic poop dispenser here, or collector or bin, whatever you want to call it. And the reason why it's called poop is because when you have this AMS Lite system here, what it does is during a filament change or a color change, it pulls the old filament out, and when it puts the new filament in, it poops a little bit or purges that filament over here on the side, usually flicks it, and this bin catches it all in here so it's not all over the place on your desk. And this ensures that when it prints with the next color, that print is very crisp, it doesn't blend the two colors and make it blurry, so on and so forth. So that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing a couple of free modifications. All they cost this filament, and they enhance this machine in my personal experience, because now I can put multiples of these things next to each other. They don't take up horizontal space. I have plenty of vertical, I just don't have horizontal space here at the studio, so that's why I really like these. The other things I did was I printed a cover, and I printed the extruder spinner with my logo on it in multicolor, so when the printer extrudes, my logo spins, which is just an awesome little flair that I just personally enjoy. Anyway, that is why this machine might look a little bit different to you, and you know, right away. So I wanted to explain that first. But now, why don't we jump right into the cons and go over the things that I don't like about this machine. And if you can get over those, well, we'll jump right into the pros. Cons, let's go. All right, cons. All right, let's get right into it. So, con number one. It's a small build plate. The size of the build plate is 180 by 180. You can actually do quite a bit with that size, but it is on the smaller size. And actually, you know what, to illustrate that, let me get this. This right here is a standard Ender size build plate. This is from a Creality machine, and this is a 220 by 220 build plate here, and this is the size of the BambuLab. So it's not that much smaller, but it's definitely smaller, and you have to deal with that. Some things that you want to print, you might not be able to, or you'll have to print them in pieces or get resourceful. And to some, that's going to be a downside. I still have no doubt in my mind that this is an extremely useful size. You can print the majority of things that you're going to want to print on this. However, when you grow out of that, it's just time to probably upgrade to something else, whether it's another Bambu machine or something completely different. I think that out of all the things that this machine can do or can't do, the build size is going to be one of the only things that's going to either turn you away or you'll eventually grow out of, because otherwise, in terms of features, it's just absolutely stellar. So the build plate is definitely one of its biggest downsides, but that's why you're paying under $200. It's because of its size. Don't forget, you're not trying to buy this thing because of the smaller build plate. You're buying this thing because of the money left over in your wallet. So that's the compromise for this. It is a smaller desktop machine, but that's also a benefit because you can keep it next to your PC or on your desk and still not have, you know, a giant bed slinging all over the place. So, and they do make this in a slightly larger machine called the A1, not just the A1 Mini. So if you do want the same style but a little bit larger, they have it. But just so you know, the number one con of this machine is the lack of build area. 180 by 180 is something you have to keep in mind. All right, moving right along. The second con I have here is you can't get the latest firmware without the Bambu Cloud account. And I ran into this when I first unboxed this machine as well as the X1C. I learned that it'll tell you that it's on the latest firmware until you sign into their cloud services. Now, you can sign out of them and disconnect it after you do it, but for those people that don't want to be in the BambuLab ecosystem and want to use these machines in LAN mode, where you can only connect to them locally or send files locally, they don't like phone home with your files and then phone back to the printer with those files. If you want to avoid all of that, you won't be able to get the latest firmware, because to update you have to sign into cloud services. So I actually find that kind of weird, and that's definitely a downside, I think, for those that are conscious about 3D printers and cloud services. Now, for me personally, I do use these machines with cloud services because of the pros of the cloud services, but I totally understand why some people won't, depending on your use case. Some people use these things in print studios and print labs, or on colleges, or at places where you have NDAs with what you're printing, things along those lines, and print farms. And for those setups, you might not want to use the cloud services. You want to use LAN. But just so you know, at some point you're going to have to jump on the cloud services just to update the machines. So that's definitely a strange little con here and there. I understand why they did it. You obviously have to get the files from their servers, but the thing is online, so I don't know. There's just probably another way to do it, maybe to avoid accounts, but I understand why they want you to do it. It makes sense. But it's just worth knowing that if you want the latest and greatest firmware, you're going to have to get on the cloud accounts. The other con is that with this machine, with the way that it's configured, the maximum temperatures this thing can go to, you're most likely just sticking to PLA, PETG, and TPU filaments. That is going to last you years and years and years of 3D printing. There's other filaments in this temperature range that you'll be able to use as well, but PETG is going to be the hottest filament that you're going to be able to use. You're not going to be printing a bunch of ABS on this thing, maybe some pieces here and there, but that and abrasives you're going to probably either want to skip or maybe upgrade the machine in some way, shape, or form to be able to do those things. But most of the time, you're going to be sticking to PLA, PETG, and TPU. Definitely a downside if you're looking, for something a bit more advanced, which I think is a little bit past this machine in my personal experience. But just so you know, those are the filaments that you'll be sticking with this machine. Then I have lots of waste with the AMS Lite. Obviously, there's two things we can talk about here. It's just the machine itself and the machine itself with the AMS. I'm going to cover both because I do think the best value is both. But if you just want to see if you're into 3D printing, printing with one color on this thing is still just as good as printing with multiple. But there's lots of waste with the AMS Lite, and those, poops that it does, every single filament change is 1, 2, or 3 of those poops, depending on which color you go to another color, and it can be very wasteful. I have myself seen a color change prints where, let's say if you do this benchy in all different colors, you're going to have more waste than the printed part itself. So you got to know that this is not the most efficient at color switching, the setup, just that it enables you to do it. So that's something you got to keep in mind. You are going to have to waste a little bit of filament if you want the luxury of printing multicolor on this machine. The next thing I have here is the Tamagotchi size screen can be hard to use. I have large, thick fingers, and this screen is very small, and it can be a nuisance to use, especially if you want to type in like the Wi-Fi password or little things like that. Sometimes I have to click like 3-4 times to get where I want. And this isn't a screen that's necessarily meant for you to sit in front of and program the entire machine. You can do that from the slicer or from the Handy app, which are definitely better experiences than this screen. And it's really nice that this even has this nice of a touch screen, but it is very small. Like, I literally have handheld systems that are larger than this. I kind of wish there was maybe like a tiltable larger screen or something like that, but it is what it is. I understand why this is here, especially at this price point. Some machines on this price point don't even have screens or still have black and white screens, so you gotta give them credit where credit's due. But in my case, my one finger is almost like a quarter of this this whole screen, or like yeah, so it is what it is. It's a tiny screen, it's hard to use, Tamagotchi size, keep that in mind. All right, and then when you have this machine with the AMS, how it's meant to be, it actually takes up more space than the P1P, P1S, X1C, the larger, way more expensive machines in this that BambuLab has. It actually takes up more space than those because this unit itself demands a bunch of space on the side. This unit, even though it looks a little small, if you can see without it here, if I move these things, there is this cantilever piece that actually sticks out pretty far as well that you have to account for in terms of space. So it might look like it's small right here. It takes a very little space on top of the table here, the printer itself, the base. But going to the left and right, forward behind it, because this bed has the sling, and then also this AMS unit, it actually takes up a ton of space, way more than you might think initially. So please keep that in mind if you're shopping around. Take a look at the measurements that they have, the specs of how much space this takes up, and consider that, because it's actually a surprising amount of space. The more expensive machines, the Core XY machines that are all enclosed, take up less because their AMS units can go on top. So they are kind of doing this. That's why I did this modification. Now this machine only takes up, this much space going upward, whereas before it takes up a whole lot, twice as much space when the AMS is sitting next to it. So something to keep in mind. And that goes back to the awkward shape and size, which I've covered a couple times now, so we don't need to get into that. And then it has a really short and always attached power cable. This is just mind-boggling to me. I'm actually standing over it right now because to have the machine here and on, I have to have an extension cord sitting and it's hanging in the air because the cable is so short. This is definitely the only machine that I have and have had that has a cable that's built in, something that I can't remove or get a longer one. It's just a weird call that they did it. I guess it's just for user experience, almost like an appliance. You carry it, set it down, and plug it in. But man, I do wish this cable had at least another foot. Everywhere where I've set this machine up, the cable either hangs or has to have an extension cord just for this machine. So keep that in mind wherever you put it. You want to have a plug somewhere close. All right, and that's really it for cons. I'm sure there's more here and there if you really want to nitpick the machine. And be sure to let me know if you know of any cons of the machine down in the comments. For those folks that are looking to get this machine, I think cons are more important than the pros because majority of 3D printers nowadays are pretty amazing and are really good. It's really the cons that separate them all, I think, right now. So if I miss something that you think is critical, definitely let us know in the comments. And if you're watching this and are looking for cons and see, hey, what's the deal here, make sure you check the comments for cons that other people might have had with this machine. All right, so with that said, let's go to the pros. Let's talk about all the good things, right? All right, let's go. All right, now for the pros. The first thing I have on the list is the Handy app, and the BambuLab ecosystem just has an excellent user experience. The firmware, the slicer, the app, all of it is cohesive. It reminds me, I talk about this a lot, it reminds me of how Apple handles their software, firmware, hardware, it's all designed for itself, so they have full control over all of those things. And it's just the best experience, I think, in 3D printing. I think everyone else is trying to chase this level of ease of use and just the clarity and how much money I think this company spent specifically on your experience, all the way to like the unboxing, like the actual box designs, and so that everything is safe in shipping, to just certain icons, the fact that there's no bad translations popping up all over the place, the fact that there's a really useful wiki, although that's getting better for a lot of other brands, and the fact that the app really lets you just control the entire machine. One of my favorite things about this machine, and probably one of the biggest, one of the best things that I can say about this machine, is the Handy app is so good where I can hand it to my young daughter or my wife who's not really into 3D printing whatsoever. She can find an amazing file on there, and right then and there we can hit print, select the colors if you have the AMS unit on there, and the machine will print from anywhere, and you have a camera feed and the ability to time-lapse the print, and just that level of of ease of use is unbelievable. There's other companies that are starting to do this as well, but this one does it the best in my experience. It connects right to MakerWorld, which is where you can get all the STL files, and they encourage their users to include profiles for all the machines. So it's highly likely, not always, but it's highly likely that you'll find the file on there that you like, that's really high-end, so to say, and then you'll also have a print profile for your machine, so you no longer necessarily need a computer or need the ability to slice or learn a slicer where you cut up the STL file so that it sends it to the machine. You can do it right from your phone, which really changes the game and modernizes things a bit. It makes this really friendly. You could easily give this machine as a gift to a younger child or someone in, like, you know, middle school or high school, even elementary school, or someone that doesn't know anything about 3D printing, and they can have an absolute blast with just their phone or a tablet and this. That's really the game changer here. It's the user experience. From unboxing to how you use this thing on a daily basis, that's really the game changer here. It's the user experience. I don't think any other company spends quite as much money on the user experience for their machines as BambuLab, and you got to commend them for that. I actually know some companies that have come through here with their machines almost spend none. They spend none on user experience and just kind of give you the hardware, and you kind of have to deal with it. So you got to say that the #1 pro is definitely the user experience for this machine. All right, #2, as far as the Pro, is the quality and speed is on par with the X1C. The X1 Carbon is their highest end machine, is their most advanced, is their fastest, and this thing competes with it head to head with PLA prints for sure. As I'll show you later, and the print results here, it's really mind-boggling almost, you know, with how fast this thing is, how it's able to calibrate itself before the print to be able to sustain those type of speeds, and just how good it is at printing PLA. It's a phenomenal machine. So the quality and speed being on par as a $1,500 machine is really, really impressive and worth talking about. Next is the AMS Lite for 4-color printing. I know I've kind of been talking about it on and off, but this machine being under $200, and just for a little bit more, you can upgrade it to this. You know, the fact that you can now print 4-color, you can fill this entire build area with things of multicolor, and it'll just crush it over and over and over again. It's really well, you know, tuned for itself. It's an absolute no-brainer. If you can afford this add-on, it's amazing. And then also, if you can't afford it right away, you can buy just this and have an upgrade path. So really, really impressive. The AMS Lite is awesome. Very high quality materials, and what I mean by that isn't what it prints, I mean what it's made out of. The plastics that it uses are not cheap plastics. They all feel really high quality. Even the magnet on the build plate, the way that it aligns, the brush for the filament, or for the nozzle, the rails, the glass on the screen, the materials that are used on this machine, when you first unbox, you're like, I got all of this for $200, for under $200. It's really, really impressive. I don't know how they do it. I'm guessing it's just the sheer numbers they're able to make and sell of this machine. You're getting a pretty high-end feeling product. Then we have extremely easy nozzle and hot end swaps. Right down here at the bottom where the nozzle is, this rubber piece comes off, the silicone piece comes off, and right there's a lever. You pull the lever and the entire hot end comes out. You can put another one in. That goes back to this area right here where you can put in yours. I only have one at the moment, but it makes nozzle changes and hot end changes so fast and easy. Everyone else, once again, is chasing that super easy toolless swap, and this is definitely one of the leading ones, and very, very easy to do. So if you wanted to change nozzle size to 0.2 for finer little details, you could just pull it, pop another one in, change the setting, and you're good to go. So really, really nice there. Fantastic feature. It also has a built-in LED and camera with time-lapse recording. So it's built into the side right over here. The LED is on right now. It also has a camera built in, which, by the way, has a physical latch that you can close. So if you don't want the cloud services, you don't want the camera, you can literally physically close it. It kind of reminds me of, you know, some of the new laptops or things you can put on your laptop to close the camera. If that's something that you don't like about these machines, they've considered it, and you know, they got you. You can literally put a blind on top of the camera. I actually thought that was pretty cool. But what other machines in this price range come with a LED light and a camera? Ooh, that's going to be a short list for sure. You're going to be looking. Then we have, can easily use filaments from other manufacturers. I think that's a misconception by some newbies where they think that they're buying a BambuLab machine, so now they have to use BambuLab filament. That's not the case. As you can see here, we have Creality filament right over here and 3D Max filament right over here. Do I have other ones back here? No, I both have another Creality and another 3D Max spool. Now, with that said, there are some spools that are just not going to fit this AMS hub. There's very simple printable adapters for that, so I don't think it's really an issue. If you bought a filament, you can just, you know, download and print very quickly an adapter for this, or you can even use the spool holder that comes on the side and not use the AMS for it. So you can buy literally any manufacturer's filament. The only difference is bamboo filament is going to have a chip in it. So when you put it on, the machine is going to recognize exactly what it is and its color and display it. And otherwise, you put this in, let's say I put in this blue, I hit filament, whoops, hit the wrong button, I hit filament, I go to the spool number, and I just put in that it's PLA and that it's blue, just as an example, and then bam, that thing is synced up and ready to go. So there's a misconception by a few folks that I've seen online where they think that they should only use bamboo filament because of its RFID chips that are on there, but no, you can use any brand filament that you would like to buy, so no worries there. And finally here I have is, and we already talked about this, but the price to performance is just off the charts. And I just want to reiterate that I don't think there's anything that's touching this at the moment, and I think this is going to be another one of those things where everyone chases BambuLab for. There are other machines like the Prusa Mini, the Kingroon KP3S, which I was a huge fan of, but even they have a bunch of little shortcomings that this machine just doesn't have, even though they're smaller cantilever machines. There's other self-built machines of this size, like the Micron that I have behind me, for example, but you're paying almost triple the cost to build one of those things yourself completely from scratch, whereas this comes all assembled and ready to go for this price range. So I don't even think there's much of a debate. The price to performance is just through the roof on this thing. All right, so now you know the bad things about the machine, you know the good things about the machine. Just like with the bad stuff, if you guys have more good stuff that you want to mention to somebody looking for a machine like this or this machine, let us know down in the comments. And like I said before, if you're looking to see what all the fuss is about, check those comments too. If you don't want to just hear it from me, there's other people with other opinions. I'm sure they'll put them down below. But now that you guys know all of that stuff, let me get the camera a little bit closer so I can show you some of the finer details of how this thing can print. Just a few quick examples, and then we'll go to the conclusion, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get closer. Let me show you some of these prints. All right, let's talk about some of the prints here. The first things I want to show you is this little spinner right here. And I know I just mentioned this in the intro here, but this little spinner, I just printed on it, so I'm really excited. It was a multicolor print, printed on here in 4 different colors. Took 20 minutes to print, so I know it's a small piece and has very little detail on it, essentially, compared to some other things you could print. But it's just amazing that you can do that on such an inexpensive machine and have so much customization here. So this entire cover was printed. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just a really cool little piece, very easy print, and yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Another one that I just did today for just as a decoration around the house here is this tree. You do print these little pieces separately, but the star was multicolor here. It had to switch towards the top. You can print this on a non-AMS machine, but just a nice example of quality, especially something like this that's fast and easy. There was just a little bit of supports to print with this. So just simple little prints. The other thing I wanted to show is the Benchy. This printed in 17 minutes. And the reason why I think it's important to show you this is because of the video that I was talking about earlier, where I tested 5 of the best machines on the channel, and I printed with the same exact filament. This is a 17-minute Benchy, and you can see that that same hull line that the X1C also had. But then again, look at the cooling right over here. Look at the cooling right over here. Look at the cooling there. It's just done so well. Let's look at the top here. The top looks perfect. And nothing, you know, the squares look square, the round looks round. Can we see the back? You can almost make out the fact that it says 3D Benchy on the back of this thing, which is really impressive. Here is the bottom. So as you can see, just a nearly perfect, nearly flawless Benchy in 17 minutes on such an inexpensive machine. Absolutely unheard of. The other thing that I had in the other test was this torture toaster, and I printed it on this machine as well. So first things first, just the overall quality of the actual print. Take a look here. There's some little tiny minor inconsistencies that I wouldn't even consider, but super smooth. This can definitely compete with the big boys in terms of overall quality. Let's take a look at that consistency right over here. Perfect. Let's take a look at stringing. Oh look, no stringing at all. I mean, this printed this part even better than the X1C, right? Then on this side we have the tolerance test, and we can move the 5, we can move the 4, we can move the 3, but I cannot get the 2 to budge. I tried, I feel like I'm gonna break it. So the 0.2 and 0.1 can't move, but some of the other machines that are literally above $1,000 had the same effect. So I'm not gonna hold that against it. Then on this side here, we have the cooling test, and I gotta say once again, look at this. This can definitely be among the best of the prints if you compare it next to those ridiculously, you know, more expensive machines than this. Absolutely amazing that it can print overhangs like this. It just absolutely crushed this test, and I don't think there was anything torturous about this toaster if you're going to print it on this machine. Very impressive. Now you guys might see what I'm talking about here. All right, then we had another multi-color print. This is the Macro SOS case for a DS Lite modification. This is my own design, as you can see by my logo here, but absolutely crushes things like this. Filament changes, nice texture from the build plate. Absolutely easy, absolutely crushed it. I'm going to put green buttons onto here, and if you guys are interested in these macro devices, I sell them on 3dprintsos.com, so check that out. But yeah, here's a multicolor print, very easy, fantastic. That's just a very brief example of what this thing is capable of in terms of multicolor. All right, let's go back to the table for the conclusion. All right, so to conclude, and for fear of me being a bit too positive on the machine, is I just want to end by saying those are the reasons why I think this is the best 3D printer of 2024. I can easily say that this one I can single out, whereas everything else is a little bit harder. You got to ask a little bit more of what you want out of a printer, what you're specifically trying to do. But if you're talking about price to performance, if you're talking about the easiest to start with, it's easily the BambuLab A1 Mini and the BambuLab A1 Mini combo. So if you are interested and are going to pick this machine up, it would highly help the channel and support me if you guys use the affiliate link that I include down below. All that does, it doesn't cost you anything, it just takes you to where you can purchase this machine from BambuLab, and I get a tiny cut if you make the purchase, and it just helps me out. That's all it is. I'll also include links to these modifications that I personally like and enjoy for the machine. I gave you all the reasons of why. Additionally, we do have a Patreon. If you'd like to join us there, you get exclusive previews of videos just like this. Same if you become a YouTube member. I also have a website, 3dprintsos.com, where I sell cool shirts just like this, just like the ones behind me, or a hoodie. It is getting cold. Get yourself a warm hoodie like my mannequin's wearing back there, as well as these custom consoles, gaming consoles that I made and designed myself. I have videos and live streams on these builds as well if you guys are interested in something like this, custom Nintendo consoles. All of that is in 3dprintsos.com, and those are all the ways you can support if you like what I do here. All right, everybody, with that said, and as always, I'll see you down in the comments. Later.